is indeed an illegal. Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, has confirmed that Israel Ramos Islas, the 34-year-old who is accused of posing as a rideshare driver, luring a woman into his car. She says that he then tried to rape her or did rape her. He's being investigated for 2 other similar incidents. So he is an illegal. So again, let me revisit one more time. We have an illegal, just in the last couple months, an illegal who's murdered a police officer, an illegal accused of rape.
While they're waiting for their asylum hearings, we're welcoming them to the state of Washington because we have found these folks frequently become pillars of our community.
And we're also finding frequently that they are killing and raping. And here's the thing. I think the Trump plan, from a political standpoint, is somewhat brilliant. Because, Jenny Durkin's completely over a barrel because she says that we love being a sanctuary city, that we are welcoming. And then she's furious at the Trump administration for, as she put it in her Washington Post op-ed this weekend, for punishing his political enemies. Well, you can't have it both ways. How is it punishment to send people to Seattle when you say that we are welcoming and that they're great economically, that they're great for the community? So now we're seeing that the left, the Democrats, they are completely twisted up like a pretzel because they say that they embrace sanctuary for purely political reasons. But now that they're confronted with the reality of maybe hundreds or thousands of illegals being bussed into their cities and states, they understand the reality is something that we can't handle. We have U.S. military veterans that we cannot take care of because we don't have enough money. And yet we're going to bring in hundreds or thousands of people who don't speak the language, which means they're consigned to economic poverty. If you can't speak the language, it's really tough economically. You have all the crimes that are committed by the illegals. They are assigned now to the mayor and the governor. But here's the problem with all of this. What if someone on one of those buses does rape or kill somebody in Seattle or San Francisco? I mean, in San Francisco, it was an illegal who fired the gun that killed the beautiful young woman as she was walking with her parents. If he wasn't in the country, she would not be dead. And so if one of the people on those buses commits a rape or a murder, who's that on? Is it on Durkin and Inslee for embracing sanctuary, for saying that we're welcoming, for saying that we want to bring as many as possible in here, and they do it for purely political reasons? Or would it be on Trump because he sent the person to Seattle who then committed that hypothetical crime? And that's where, while I see some political brilliance in what Trump is doing, because it has exposed the not just hypocrisy, but the stupidity of sanctuary. We have United States citizens that we cannot afford to take care of. And we're going to bring in illegals who require a disproportionate amount of money for their care because you have to provide translators. The schools have to have translators. We spend $1 billion in Washington a year on illegals in the schools, in our healthcare system, housing, food vouchers, the whole deal, the full meal deal. And so politically, it exposes just how ridiculous the left sanctuary city position is. But it'd be a disaster for President Trump if one of them does commit a crime. If one of them murders another cop, as happened a few weeks ago. And while you can put it on Durkin and Inslee because of the insanity of sanctuary, the national media wouldn't. The national media would use that, and I can tell you, it would be a very powerful weapon against President Trump. You know, just as when Mike Huckabee released Maurice Clemens from a life sentence, and then Maurice Clemens came up here and murdered 4 Lakewood police officers. That was on Mike Huckabee. And while I liked Huckabee on many issues, I said I would never vote for Mike Huckabee because he's directly connected to the murder of those 4 Lakewood cops. Jay Inslee is directly connected to the murder of Kittitas County Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Thompson, because it was real easy for that killer to stay in Washington because he knew nothing was going to happen to him here as an illegal because of our sanctuary policies. Inslee's directly connected to that cop killer through sanctuary. So if Trump busts illegals here, is that on Inslee and Durkin, or is that on Trump? I think it's on Inslee and Durkin, but I know how the media works. And they would use it very effectively. And they would tie any crimes committed in any of these sanctuary cities by the busloads of illegals. They would tie it to Trump, and it would be a very effective weapon against President Trump. I'm sure his strategists are thinking about all of this, but as we get more indication today that they are a step closer to this plan, it could prove to be explosive. I'd love to hear what you think about all of this. You can text me. The Online Trading Academy text line is 98973. That's 98973. Next up in the big lead.
The big lead. Your tax dollars at work.
Meanwhile, the media Democrat collusion to get as much of your money continues. The Seattle Times has a big piece today about New York made history last month when it became the first American city to approve congestion pricing. The congestion pricing is what I've been telling you about for 18 years. It is the ultimate dream of the people in power around here, and that is to toll every single street, every inch of every street. And, they've done it with the hot lanes on 405, 167. You got the toll on 520. The next step is downtown Seattle. And the Seattle Times talked to a guy who says that it makes a lot of sense to toll downtown Seattle streets. 70% of the public in a recent Seattle Times poll hates the idea. But they found this one guy who said that it's a wonderful thing to reduce congestion, to manage traffic. And then another story today. Jenny Durkin has developed the plan to toll city roadways. She says the details are still sparse, but she said that she desperately wants congestion pricing. And so what this is the continued attack on the poor by Democrats who are in power around here. Poor people, they have jobs where they often need to have a car. You know, they're the people in many of those sectors who clean our houses. Then you got the working class, the lower middle class, up to the middle class, the tradespeople who carry their tools, or plumbers, or electricians, or drywall hangers. They carry tools in their vans and trucks, and they can't take mass transit. And this is the continued war on the poor. And why? Why would they do that? And they talk about the disappearing middle class. That's because the taxes that are imposed on the middle class knocks them down into the poor category, which is exactly what our politicians want. Because the more poor you have, the more dependent they are on government, the more likely they are to vote for expanded government, for government as socialism. And that's what congestion pricing is. Jenny Durkin, I mean, think about this. You got somebody who makes $35,000 a year. They have to drive downtown. And they're talking about as much as $10 per day to get into downtown. That's $50 a week. That's $2,500 a year that Jenny would force them to pay if they do the maxed out $10. I mean, there are some reports that it could be even more than $10. But it strips thousands of dollars away from lower middle class people. But that holds them hostage. That is the design. And Jenny Durkin, she has absolutely no clue what life is like for the poor. I do. That's how I grew up. And I know how heartbreaking it is when my mom needed to scrounge a quarter to drive me to school so she could put 25 cents worth of gas in the car. I know what that's like. Jenny Durkin lives in a $7.5 million mansion. There are reports that her partner is worth more than $100 million. Of course, when you cannot relate, when you cannot in any way understand what it's like for people who are struggling to get by, it's easy to say, yeah, let's just toll the streets. Let's get more of their money. And the motivation, again, is power and control. And so this despicable plan remains one of the great challenges of my radio career. We cannot allow expanded tolling on our roads because it'll devastate families financially. And we cannot allow an income tax. Those remain the two greatest fights of my professional career. And I hope you will join me in these crusades because we cannot allow this to happen. And next up in the big lead.
The Big Lead, top trending.
On a much lighter note, Russell Wilson, after midnight last night, agreed to his new contract with the Seattle Seahawks, and he is now the highest paid player in the history of the National Football League. It's 4 years, $140 million. It includes a $65 million signing bonus. That's the highest in NFL history as well. And the guaranteed money, $107 million. Another NFL record. So Russell Wilson is locked in through the 2023 season with the Seattle Seahawks. And that's good news. He is a franchise quarterback. It's now going to be real interesting to see if the Seahawks have enough money to pay players around them so they can continue to build a championship. Last night after midnight, Russell was in bed with Sierra, but he still had time to post a video to the 12s.
Hey, Seattle, we got a deal.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. But I'm going to see y'all in the morning.
Good night.
Time for y'all to go to bed.
Finally, we can go to sleep.
See y'all in the morning.
You know what that's like to sign a $140 million contract? Wow. That is your big lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Ursula's going to check the news, and then the Dori Monson Show exclusive. How teachers are ripping off the taxpayers around here by taking their social justice warrior causes into the classroom. Details next.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show